evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 28th edition of Courtside with Coach Crist. I'm Greg Crist, and as you can tell from the vacant spot beside me, my co-host and confidant, Dave Gorby, is not here with us tonight. Gorb is at a track meet somewhere, and we're supposed to try to call him on the phone, get a hold of him. We'll see if we can do that here in just a little bit. But right now, we're going to go out to our one eye in the sky, and that is Mr. Muggy McLeod. Muggy McLeod, are you there?
Hey, good evening, Coach. This is Muggy McLeod, and your one eye in the sky, NRN, Chopper 1, Traffic and Weather Team Report.
Awesome.
So tonight, Coach, we're flying as quickly as possible over Ansted, West Virginia, heading back to Oak Hill for a late supper.
I know Ansted, yeah. That's where I was born and reared.
Yes, you were. Yep. We are now flying over the beautiful Hawks Nest State Park, where lights along the Midland Trail continue to clog up the landscape as we enter the early days of May. And oh my God, someone apparently stole the tram. But
they did, yeah, it's gone.
Hopefully they'll put it back.
Yeah, I figure they will. And you know, I said I was born and reared there, but not, by my parents, not Steve and George, anybody like that. Go ahead.
Yes. As we move east, through the Lover's Leap area, toward the town of Ansted, there is apparently a new Shoney's Big Boy restaurant open.
Yeah.
I can see the statue down there. No, wait a minute. That is just Matt Head Handshoe mowing his yard without a hat on.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We thought it was a statue. Yeah.
I thought it was the Shoney Big Boy statue. Yes, so as we move through the city limits, we are slowing rapidly to keep from getting a speeding ticket.
Right.
As anyone has ever been through Ansted, probably got a ticket.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well known for that.
Yes, as we continue through town to the east side, we approach the skating rink hill, and there seems to be a crowd gathering at the top of the steps for the weekly fisticuffs.
Yep.
Should sell tickets. Yes, traffic is backed up due to onlookers and a police car pulling over out-of-state speeders.
Yes. Oh, yes.
As we raise our altitude, I can look back on the former Ansted Middle School football field where Coach Crist dominated on the sidelines back in the day.
That's right. That's right. Domination.
So your weather tonight is being sponsored by Irving's Hot Dogs.
It was good.
And Blue Smoke Salsa, where they would like for you to put some West Virginia in ya.
Absolutely. Yep. We remember that, don't we?
Yes. Sounds like the saying on Gorby's favorite T-shirt.
Yep.
Anyway, tonight's weather continues to be cold and sucky, but things start to look up for the weekend. So Get out those Daisy Dukes, Gorby, and come to Ansted. Put some West Virginia in ya.
All right. Sounds good, Muggy. Sounds like a good plan.
Yes, sir. Coach, this is Muggy McLeod with your one eye in the sky, NRN, Chopper 1, Traffic and Weather Team Report. Back to you guys, or you guy, in the Pinheads studio.
All right. Thank you, Muggy McLeod, coming to us from Ansted tonight. Be careful out there, Muggy. It's a little windy. All right, now I cut Muggy off there before he had a chance to answer. Didn't get another tirade. We appreciate Muggy McLeod calling in and keeping us up to date on what's going on around our area. And tonight he's talking, of course, about Ansted and gave us a little insight into traffic and everything else going on over at Ansted. And as I said, Dave Gorby not with us tonight, and he asked me, he said, well, you can call me. So I'm going to try to ring Gorby up and just see what he's up to and see where his track team is participating at today and what they're getting into. We'll see if he answers us. Gorby likes to make a late entry. Awkward silence. All right. Well, it appears that Gorby is out of range. And wait a minute, I see now he Yes, he's not able to talk right now as he's at his track meet, so he will not get another call from me. He's the one that asked me to call him and then don't answer. Can't have that going on. We like to tell everybody what we do here is try to put on this show and entertain people just a little bit. I know we get more entertainment out of it than probably people watching, but we enjoy goofing off here a little bit on the show. We try to bring some attention to our local high school and middle school girls and boys athletes, and we like to recognize an athlete of the week each week. We try to get special people on to interview so that piques interest in the show. And, of course, if we pique interest in the show, then that piques interest in our local high school athletes and middle school athletes, and that's what we're trying to do. So, we always pick an athlete of the week that is sponsored by Gino's Pizza. We appreciate them doing that. Our athlete of the week last week was Colin Brooks. Colin is a trackster for Oak Hill and has been winning lots of events here lately. And Colin was fortunate enough to get the athlete of the week. And when they get that, they win a certificate for free pizza, free biscuits from Tudors. They get a nice certificate of recognition, and like we always say, and I always tell Gorby, they get their name spread around on this show, seen by millions and millions of people, and it changes their lives forever. And then we follow that up with a disclaimer that it really doesn't change their lives at all, just gives them a free pizza. So. But that's good enough. All right. So anyway, again, Colin Brooks last week. We'll have our athlete of the week this week after we come back from our first break. That's usually when we do it. We also want to mention that we have advertising opportunities available. If anybody would like to jump on board and advertise with us, we'd love to have you. Lots of people are watching the show, and during the week, people go back and watch it, and we appreciate all of that. And I want to let you know, as an advertiser, you get your name out there quite a bit, and people do appreciate it when you support causes like this. So hopefully we'll get some folks on board for some advertising opportunities. You can give Darren a call or me a text, or get us on Facebook or something and message us. We'll be glad to help you out there with that. I had an awesome guest last week in Mr. Ted Valentine. Of course, Ted Valentine is an official, officiates in the NCAA in basketball. He's been an official for 40-some-odd years. He said 5 decades. I think it's, I forget the number, but 40-some-odd years that he's officiated, and he's done Final Fours, NCAA tournaments, lots of those, lots of championships, and I think 4 or 5 actual national championship games. And it was a real pleasure having him on. He was a lot of fun to talk to, just like about all of our guests have been here, and especially lately, we've had some really good ones. And I'm not going to go back and name them all, but you can go back and watch them all anytime you want. And you can tune in on YouTube, Facebook, Roku TV. Just pull up Courtside with Coach Crist or search New River Network, and you'll be able to watch any of the shows you want to. We have the guest list names on there for each and every show, so you can go in and check out who your favorite person might be. And we, like I said, we've had some good ones. Joe Alexander, Quincy Wilson, Brian Joswiak was a good one. Archie Talley was awesome. Jonathan Hollyfield was awesome. I mean, I hate to name them because I always leave somebody out, Curlenbeck, but they've all been really good, and you would enjoy going back and watching the show. I think you're going to enjoy tonight's guest as well, kind of a local flavor to this one, a young guy by the name of Jimmy Parker. Jimmy played at Mount Hope High School. He was there when I taught school over there, and he went on to Marshall and excelled at Marshall University for their football team. And we're going to talk to him later on this evening, and he's out in Texas and is working a little bit, but he's agreed to come on the air with us and talk to us a little bit tonight. So we're looking forward to talking to Jimmy. That'll be a lot of fun as well. We're going to take us a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to tell you who this week's Gino's Pizza Courtside with Coach Crist athlete of the week is. And we watched him perform just the other night. And we'll give you his name here in just a minute. Before we go any further, though, I want to I usually give some shout-outs, but tonight I'm shouting out one and only one, and that is my lovely wife, Jody, who's down in Alabama with Dr. Crist and some of the family enjoying the lake down there, and I want to wish her a happy 32nd anniversary. It's been all this 32 years of marital bliss. I can't express enough. But I want to wish her a happy anniversary and tell her that I love her. Looking forward to her getting home. Also tonight, along those same lines, the NFL draft is taking place, and we don't know that we'll have anything on the draft as the show goes on. We don't know if we'll get anything in of importance. I personally don't really even know who the top picks are supposed to be, so we probably won't have anything else on the NFL draft other than it is tonight. We always look forward to that. We did a baseball game Monday night. We covered the Oak Hill High School, Midland Trail High School baseball game. Good game. Score ended up, it looked a little more lopsided than what it actually was. 8-0 was the score. Oak Hill wins it. But it was a good baseball game. Hats off to both teams. Midland Trail, pretty good squad themselves, and Oak Hill just got an outstanding pitching performance, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit when we get to our Athlete of the Week. Don't want to give it away just yet. So we'll get us a break in, and when we come back, we'll announce that Athlete of the Week. And we have a return call. And I don't give up who the audience caller is, but this week we have a return of a special guest caller, and that is none other than Oogie Spivens. We've had a lot of demand for Oogie to come back on the show, so Oogie Spivens is going to be calling in tonight. Not sure what he's going to be talking about, but we'll get to that after we get our Athlete of the Week. Of course, later on the show, we'll have Dr. Crist, and then we'll finish up with our special guest, Mr. Jimmy Parker from the Thundering Herd, and we're looking forward to that. So I hope you'll stay with us here on Courtside with Coach Crist. I'm Greg Crist. That's not Dave Gorby. He's not here tonight, but he's with us in spirit. And he had his chance for a phone call, but he missed out on that. So I have to give him some grief over that as well. But anyway, we appreciate you watching. We hope you'll stay with us until after these messages. We'll be back in just a moment. With Coach Crist. I'm Greg Crist, and Dave Gorby, again, not with me now. Tonight he is away at a track meet and unable to come to the phone, so we'll just have to miss old Dave tonight, especially with our audience caller calls in, because that's usually the one that gets on him a little bit. We told you before we went on break that we would let you know who our Athlete of the Week is this week, and this is week Gino's Pizza, Courtside with Coach Crist, Athlete of the Week. We like to mention Gino's for sponsoring this, give them a nice certificate, pizza, biscuits, get a certificate, and name spread around the world. So our Courtside with Coach Crist, Gino's Pizza, Athlete of the Week this week is none other than Mr. Zane Wolf. Zane pitched the ball game Monday night that we covered, and had an outstanding game. And like I said earlier, they beat Midland Trail 8-0, and Midland Trail is actually a really good team. And Zane just basically shut them down. And I didn't tell what he did. He pitched a complete game. He only gave up 2 hits. His first hit he gave up, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was in the 5th or 6th inning. Gave up his first hit, and then in the 7th gave up another hit. And that was it. Gave up 2 hits all night. He struck out 13 batters. in this win, an 8-0 win against Midland Trail. And like I said, Midland Trail's not a bad team, and he just pitched an outstanding game. And for those reasons, Zane Wolf is our Geno's Pizza Courtside with Coach Crist Athlete of the Week. Congratulations to Zane. And again, he'll be getting that certificate for pizza and biscuits and a nice certificate. So we appreciate Geno's again, and we appreciate Zane for doing such a great job. And I tell you what, we called that game, and he did an outstanding job. He just he never had any control problems. He was in command the whole time of his pitches. He walked only, I think, 2 or 3 batters, I believe. So he did an outstanding job. And right now we got our audience caller calling in that we've been looking so forward to. Hello, it's Courtside with Coach Crist. Who am I talking to?
Hi there, Coach. This is Oogie Spivens, and I'm a second-time caller, full-time caller.
You are a second-time caller, and we've been looking forward to having you back on because we've had a lot of requests for Oogie Spivens to make a return.
Yes, sir. Does it count if the same person makes the same request over and over again?
Well, we don't talk about that. We'll count it no matter what.
All right.
You know, Katie Armstrong is your biggest fan. She loves it.
Yes, I do. I wanted to give her a shout out,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I need some sound effects though before I can go to any further.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get you some drum roll here. Little cymbals crash. Bang. There it is. So sound effects for Oogie.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Coach, as I was saying, I was going to give a shout out to my number one fan, Katie. She loves her some Oogie Spivens, but hey, what's there not to love?
That's right.
Oogie.
Oogie's a lovable guy, that's for sure.
Yes, sir, Coach. You know, this is a great time of year for sports, Coach. Baseball, starting, NBA playoffs, golf, and, of course, my favorite, cornhole.
Yep. Oh, yeah. We've had some cornhole activity here lately.
All right, speaking of cornholers, I want to know how JB and Marshall did against old 8-Finger Buck and Blind Eye Brown in the poker tournament there this last week. Have you heard anything?
Yes, I have, and I was trying to save it, but I can't really remember the terminology. But I know Marshall Woods was on a winning team and won a bunch of money, and I was going to try to get a hold of him here a little bit and talk to him some about it.
He must have got the blind draw from with 8-Finger Buck. That's the only way they can win.
Yep.
But them boys been doing some cornholing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I may get Marshall on the phone here just a little bit and find out exactly what he did win.
Well, that'd be fun, Coach. I think Marshall he'd be all up for letting you know.
I think so too.
You know, and then maybe they can make that donation back to to their favorite bar up there, the sponsors.
I'm sure they will. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, Coach, I want to give another shout out to some redneck kinfolk hanging out down there in Alabama.
All right.
There's only 5 of them there, but the number of teeth in the state of Alabama doubled when they got there.
Yes, yeah, I'd say so. I hope we don't have anybody else down there listening.
Oh, they ain't got no phones or no nothing, no internet down there. Hey, Coach, I just been thinking about, speaking of sexy, toothless people, and I'm sorry to hear that Gorby's not in the studio with you.
Yeah.
It raises the sexy meter by at least 2%, I hear.
Yes, he does. He's sassy.
He is a sexy man. Hey, Coach, I've got a confession to make.
Uh-huh.
And what better way to do it than on your show with the great psychologist, Dr. Crist, coming on.
All right.
All right, Coach. You see, since I was a little baby boy, I've had some phobias. And not all phobias are bad, but a couple of mine get the best of me for a little bit. So, for instance, I have a little phobia. It's called hippopotamonstrossequiptalophobia, which is the fear of long words.
All right.
It made me a little anxious just reading it.
I was going to say, I can tell it's really bothering you.
Yeah. And then there's my pogonophobia. And that is the fear of beards. But I'm not afraid of Gorby's because it's more of a neck beard, and that really don't count.
Right.
Yeah, right. So then the craziest one I have, though, is the phobia, which is the fear of phobias. So I'm just screwed any way I go.
Oh, yeah. You can't escape that one.
No, not at all. But the one condition I've been struggling with lately, and I need to talk to the doctor about, is misophonia. where common sounds when people make weird noises when they eat or talk. They drive me crazy. They get me angry.
Yeah.
And then I spout off to people, and I don't mean to be rude, but it kind of comes off that way. But,
Yeah.
I need Dr. Crist to please help me because I need to get some new shoes.
Yeah, well, yeah, that phobia, the last one you mentioned there, it seems to affect a lot of people.
Yes, it does. And
I've heard about it myself.
About that.
I've heard it not only from my bride of 32 years, but also from some of the listeners of my broadcasts, our baseball games.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I'll start, calling you out on it too.
Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, I get called out for my sniffling and my cough drop eating, and yeah. But these mics are really, really sensitive. I mean, you just make any little noise and you can hear it.
Right. I understand, Coach. I do a little singing, and they can hear me burping and whatnot and everything when I'm talking and singing. But that microphone's a booger. You get a live mic on you, and you just never know. You may end up, just pissing somebody off.
You might. Well,
anyway, Coach. But on to the pressing issue at hand.
All right.
And I got a question for the coach because there seems to be a lot of this going on around right now, and a lot of people. You speaking of phobias, I mean, some people are a little, phobic about, some people, transgender athletes competing, and Coach, I'm about as liberal as they get. You can swing any way you want to swing, just don't swing it near me.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel you.
I just kind of wonder what the good doctor thinks about, all this stuff going on. And we have, but, you had biathletes and triathletes before. So, I mean, I don't know what the big deal is. I mean, that's Bruce Jenner. I mean, my God, would he be on a Wheaties box today still? I mean, or would somebody get mad about that? Right. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And that's a little different there, the triathletes, biathletes than transgender, what we're talking about. But I get your point. And, right. We'll talk to Dr. there in a little bit. Oddly enough, he had mentioned maybe talking about some of that tonight because that is a hot topic right now. A lot of back and forth disagreements, people on one side or the other not liking it too well.
I understand, Coach. Hey, everybody's got their phobias and issues. I don't see where it is a real issue, but hey,
Yep.
It is what it is.
That's right.
All right, Coach. Well, I'm going to let you go because I know you got bigger and better things coming along the way, and me and Posey, we got stuff to do. We got to go work on his phobia.
All right, which is?
Well, I'm not really sure. I think his phobia is the fear of, I don't know.
Sobriety,
maybe.
All right.
I know he has no fear of street corners and oddly darkened windows in his car.
Right.
I know he has those things.
Right.
And, and he has no fear of bicycles, whether they're the ones that were sitting on your front porch or wherever.
That's right. All right. We'll get you off here, Oogie. We appreciate you calling. We appreciate you, revealing some of that information about yourself. And then we'll get on with Dr. Crist here and talk to him about the transgender athletes and that kind of stuff that's going on right now. So
yes,
we appreciate it.
It was very therapeutic, Coach.
Oh, I'm glad.
Oogie.
All right, Oogie. We appreciate you, buddy. Oogie Spivens coming to us. We don't know where he's at tonight, but Oogie, of course, a second-time caller and obviously a fan favorite. And we'll definitely have Oogie back again and talking about some of these issues and some of the things going on with the the athletes that, are transgender and that sort of thing, and a lot of controversy over that. So I think Dr. Crist is going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So we'll get a quick break in. We'll get Dr. Crist on the phone, and we will discuss that. So stay with us here on Courtside with Coach Crist, Greg Crist, Dave Gorby out of town tonight. We appreciate you watching. We hope that you'll stay with us and throughout this break and come back and finish out the show with us as we talk to Dr. Crist and our special guest, Jimmy Parker, a little later on. All right, stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Courtside with Coach Crist. I'm Greg Crist. Dave Gorby not with us tonight. Gorby's out at a track meet. He just texted me a little bit and says, I forgot. He forgot I was supposed to call him. So that's real nice. All right. We always at this time in the show, we have our segment we call House Call with Dr. Chris. We're running a little bit late tonight because of Oogie Spivens calling in. And we got a little bit behind, but we are okay. So I know they've been down on the lake there in Alabama. I already mentioned that. But right now we do have Dr. Crist on the phone, and we welcome you to the show, Dr. Crist.
All right. Thank you. Very much appreciate it.
I don't know if you heard Oogie. I don't think you did because y'all were out on the lake, but he had some questions about some phobias that he has, and he discussed those phobias with us. I'm not sure they were real phobias or he just made them up. But then he talked a little bit about transgender athletes and people being upset about that. And he was wanting to get your take on that. And I told him, oddly enough, that's what you thought you might talk about tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll be glad to talk about that. I mean, obviously this is a little bit of a heated topic right now. It's a little controversial.
Oh, yeah.
And it has to do with people who are who are transitioning to the other sex,
right,
and want to be allowed to participate in their new gender role sports events. And so I'm not gonna present this by taking a side. I think I told you I really didn't want to get into the politics of it. I just want to present some really kind of objective point of view and objective data about this. And my goal here is to really communicate to your listeners that this issue is a lot more complex than it seems on the surface.
Yep.
There is a lot more to it. To be honest, I wish it were as black and white as people try to make it seem, but it is not.
Right.
And there are strong arguments on both sides. There are strong arguments about letting transgender athletes participate, and there are strong arguments on the other side as well. So let me start. We talk about different issues, and we're always trying to come up with ideas that we think would interest your listeners. And me and, our favorite brother-in-law, Randy, we were sitting around yesterday afternoon. You can imagine what we were doing.
He came out. He's really a woman.
Yeah. So we were sitting in this establishment, and they had a couple of TVs on. And I'm sitting there watching. On one TV was a Major League Baseball game. And on the other TV was a women's softball game, college softball game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking back and forth between those. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I was playing those sports, and I look at the baseball game, and you and I have talked about this before. Both of us played sports all of our lives. We like to think of ourselves as decent athletes. We're not great athletes, but we were decent, Yeah. I'm sitting there looking at that Major League Baseball, and I'm going, there is no way that I could hit that guy's fastball. It's just impossible, right? But then I look over to the women's softball game, and I go, you know what? There's no way
to hit that either.
So I think people may not realize just how good these women athletes are.
Mm-hmm.
They are exceptional.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that they're always as strong or as fast or compete against the men or anything like that, but they're very, very, very good athletes. And if you think you're an average, athletic male and you're going to change sex and you're going to go over there and compete and win, you're badly mistaken. You're going to get thumped because these women are very, very good. And it has a lot to do with Title IX and the fact that we have encouraged women's athletic sports for a long time. Women are getting involved in sports at a lot earlier ages. They're competing against the guys early on. And they have developed a lot of really high caliber, highly athletic women and athletic teams. And so while we often focus on the men who have decided to transition, and by transition I mean they're going through the full process of transitioning from being a male to being a female. Now, that involves a lot of things. First of all, that's not a decision that somebody just makes, that they just decide, all right, I'm going to be a female and I'm going to compete in that. But that's not how it works.
Yeah.
If you decide that, at the very least, you will be in therapy for the next year. Minimum.
Yep.
You will be required to go into therapy to really prove that this is something psychological that is real. It's not just somebody who just makes up their mind. It's not some parent who's trying to encourage their kid. It's not some, TV show that's encouraging people to think that way. That is so far from the truth. It's not even realistic.
Mm-hmm.
These people genuinely feel like they're a female trapped in a male's body.
Right.
And they have to go through this full therapeutic regimen to demonstrate that they're actually have this condition or have this belief system, and that it's unshakable. Then and only then will they even be qualified to go through whatever hormonal and surgical procedures. We're talking years to make this happen. So I'm telling you, if you don't fully believe it, if you're just making it up, it ain't going to happen.
Right.
It's just not. There's no way that's going to happen. It is an absolute, total, full commitment by this person to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, part of that process is that for males, at least, they have to take hormone suppressing medication so that their testosterone levels are suppressed. So that means all of those physiological advantages that men have over women in terms of muscle mass and strength and so on, it goes away.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's minimized. And if it didn't, think about this. I mean, this has become such a hot topic. How many transgender athletes have you heard of lately? They're absolutely dominating.
All right.
In women's sports.
Well, I was going to say, you hear about them in the swimming because that one athlete,
one person.
Yeah, one person. But as far as the other sports, I don't know that I've heard of really anybody in any other sports. I can't think of any.
That's right.
And,
that's right.
I think a lot of people have the perception that it's just like, okay, Dr. Crist there got him a piece of duct tape and taped himself up, and now he's out there acting like a woman. Yeah.
Right.
Which is
but
not.
I just decided last week that I'm really a woman. I'm going to go compete in this women's event. I'm going to dominate and win.
Right.
That's so far away from the truth. It's not even funny. I mean, it is way, way away from the truth.
Yep.
This is a process that takes years, like I said, and these people genuinely have issues about their gender identity.
Right.
Now, the second thing I would say that complicates this is there are a lot of physiological things that are different. There are things that happen during development, during gestation, during embryo development that can actually affect one's sexual presentation when they're born. And so the idea that people are born either male or female, and that's the only two options, that's not right either. There are probably, 6 or 8 different possibilities that a person could be born with, and it's not always clear cut. It's very confusing. And so here you have these poor parents, who are looking at this baby and they're going, "What's this?"
Yeah.
And the doctor's trying to explain to them what might have happened, and then it's like, "Okay, it's on you. Do you want them to be a boy or a girl?"
Right.
That happens. All right. That happens. And these poor parents are looking at you like, "You've got to be kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to make that decision." Yes, you have to make that decision.
Wow.
And so it's not always clear. It's just not always clear.
Yep. Wow.
And so when we talk about the transgender athletes, that's one thing on it. Now, on the flip side, I also get it. I mean, if I am the parent of a very good female athlete, do I want them, trying to compete against people that were born biologically male?
Yeah.
I understand their argument. I understand their concern. I get it that it may not seem fair, that there may be a disadvantage. And so I get all that.
Yep.
And I understand their concern, but the reality is that, we don't want to deny anybody the opportunity to participate in athletics.
Right.
And we have to find some way to make sure that everybody gets treated in a way that's fair and equitable and so on. And there just aren't any easy solutions.
Yeah.
I wish it was simple, but it's not. It is not simple.
So many things, like so many other things, and that is education would go a long way to help them resolve the issues. I think a lot of them,
Right.
probably not all of them, but if people get educated and understand, like you were talking about, they probably deal with it a little bit better.
Right. And I really want people to try to understand there are always two sides of the story. There's more to the issue than you think, and getting educated and trying to understand what might actually be going on might at least enable you to have some empathy or some understanding for the other person's perspective.
Yep.
Because their perspective is going to be very different from you, and nobody's out there. I say nobody. That may be extreme. Most people aren't out there trying to take advantage of the system, try to lie to you, try to coerce you into believing this. That's not what's happening.
Right.
There are thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of kids that are affected by this who just want to be treated like everybody else.
Yeah. Yep.
And they just want to be seen just like everybody else. But there's something different about them, and you're putting a really heavy burden on them to try to get them to conform to what you believe is the right thing.
Right.
Instead of what they're thinking.
Yep.
Greg, I've said this many times. Our mama taught us the golden rule. And the golden rule was treat other people the way you'd like to be treated.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I feel like that the golden rule has been reinterpreted, and it's treat other people the way you want to treat them.
Right.
And that is really, really sad. That just doesn't feel right to me.
Yep. And that applies to everything, not just the gender thing, but everything else too.
Everything else too.
Yeah. And it's changing. That's for sure. All right, man. Good stuff. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now you and Mr. Biggs can sit down and have the rest of the discussion and clear it all up and get back with us and let us know what the solution is.
I think that we may come up with some brilliant insights here in just a few minutes.
I'd say. All right. Hey, y'all have a good time, and it was good talking to you again, as always. Very interesting, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Love you, brother.
All right. Love you, too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Dr. Crist coming to us from Alabama. They're down there having some fun on the lake this week as Jody went down to join them, and they're having a good time down there. And it's always interesting to talk to him and get his insights into these things. And he researches this stuff. He just don't come on here and start blabbering about it. He researches it and studies it. And he's super intelligent, so he always has, great insights into what's going on and what we're talking about. So that's interesting stuff. That really is interesting, and that is a big controversy going on right now. We haven't had it in our area, I don't think yet, but I think that in due time it's going to be touching a lot of folks, and it's going to be something that has to be dealt with at some point, and around here and everywhere else, and people are going to have to learn about it and what it entails, what it means, and how we're going to do it. So hopefully that the education part of it will go a long way. All right, we're going to get a break in here. While we're on break, we're going to call up our special guest tonight, Mr. Jimmy Parker, down there in Texas, and talk to him a little bit about some Marshall football and his days back then with Marshall and Mount Hope, and what he's up to today. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to you coming back with us after these messages. I'm Greg Crist. You're watching Courtside with Coach Crist here on the New River Network. Stay with us. We'll return after these messages. Coach Crist. I'm Greg Crist. Dave Gorby not with us tonight. He is out at a track meet coaching the young folks up like he always does in about every other sport there is. He's out there coaching. We are tickled to death at this time. Every week we do our show. We always have that special guest on at the end, and tonight we're tickled to death to have another special guest with us, a guy that I've got to know several years ago and haven't seen him a lot since then, but followed his career and keep track of him on Facebook and that kind of thing right now. And we're tickled to death to have Mr. Jimmy Parker with us. Jimmy, we appreciate you taking some time to join us.
Coach, I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, well,
it's an honor.
I know you're down, I think you said in Texas somewhere, doing some work for some stuff for work, and you was nice enough to step out a little bit and talk to us some. And I've been sitting here. We were talking before we came on the air a little bit about some of the honors and accolades that you had gotten while you were at Marshall, and we're going to get to all that here in just a minute. But the first thing I want to do before we get into any of that, I want to talk about your time at Mount Hope and you're playing football there, how you got started playing. And I want to tell this story too. And I told somebody this at work today. In fact, it was a guy that I work with that played at Midland Trail, and we started talking about you. I was telling him he's going to be on the show, and anyway, I was telling him when I started teaching at Mount Hope, I had been teaching for about 10 years, coaching for those 10 years. When I walked into Mount Hope High School, I saw the biggest human beings I had ever seen in my life, and that was the girls. Then I saw you guys, and I was like, my gosh, I've never seen so many big guys in my life. You guys were huge, and I was just like, I cannot believe this. But anyway, you guys had some really good football teams while I was over there. I got to watch it, and I just want you to talk a little bit about your time at Mount Hope and playing for Coach Zook and that sort of thing, and how you got started playing football.
Well, it kind of all started, my older brother, Jesse, he started playing in 7th grade. He's 2 years older than me. So I just got the fuel for me to want to do whatever my brother was doing,
Right.
You look, most of the time you have an older brother, you look up to them, you want to do what they're doing. And when he started, I wanted to start right then and there. And I was a 5th grader at the time. Probably was big enough to be honest with you to play, but I was looking up to him. I loved football. My dad, we'd watch it every Sunday. Mike Singletary was one of my favorite players, and I tried to mimic my play after Mike Singletary. So after watching my brother start off with Coach Bo, at the time, I started in 7th grade myself, and it was just an honor to play for. First of all, my uncles played, my dad played at Mount Hope, and to come up through where your parents grew up and play for that school, it was just amazing to me, man. I loved it and cherished every second of it. Matter of fact, I played in Arena League, and I always go back to Friday Night Lights and talk about my Mount Hope days.
Oh, yeah.
We had some really good teams, and I played with some really good players. Kevin Biggs is one of my best friends there in town. And, when you said size, I thought obviously me and him was probably a couple big guys, and then you had Major Newsom and Ezra Robinson, and and then we had some little guys that would hit you. You had David Humphrey there, and Bubby Wilburn, and Dante Scruggs. I can name a ton of great players that came out there. And I remember being a freshman, and I looked up to one of the hardest hitters I've seen since I read a book on Mike Singletary, and his name was Dean Wood.
Yep.
And I remember people talking about Dean, about how he would hit you and this and that. And so I was like, okay, people's going to talk about me like that. Yeah. So that kind of fueled me. And of course, I have an older brother. I got to play with him my freshman year. He was a junior. And so I got to play with him for 2 years, and just wanting to beat him. Right. I'll never forget, Coach Helmick was our offensive line coach. And he was driving us home one day, and he looked at Jesse, my brother, and he said, Jimmy's going to have a bigger opportunity to play this sport than you. You might be smarter, Jesse. You're smarter at this game and this and that. And I was like, I'll show you, Coach. And unfortunately, I did get a better opportunity because of my size, but I was also smart, I felt like. Right. And, I enjoyed the coaches. I enjoyed the players. I tell you what, man, we had some great teams. I think we went to the second round every year and made it to the semifinals once. Yep. My senior year was a heartbreak. We had Valley Wetzel 24 points going in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And let them come back and beat us. And that was the year they won it.
Yep.
So I was like,
Yep.
man,
Yep. I was
our
there
year.
watching that, and I just thought, oh my gosh, we had that game won. Yep.
We had it won.
You mentioned you mentioned a couple of names there, especially one, Bo Morrison. Bo and I, of course, coached middle school football against each other for about 10 years, and I absolutely love that guy. And, of course, then I get over and start working with Eddie Zook, and he's quite a character himself. But some of my fondest memories of teaching, especially, were at Mount Hope and coaching, too. I had a great time over there and tell lots of people of the 32 years that I did it. I had 7 or 8 years over there. I can't remember. But those were some of the better years that I have. Great people. Students were all good. I just had a good time while I was there. Just a lot of fun. But yeah, it was. And like I said, when I walked in and saw you guys, I was like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into here? These guys are huge, man. They might get, but
for
was
a
good.
small single A school, I mean, we had some size, and I just think, Coach Zook, and to this day, I love that man to death.
Oh, yeah.
He moved me in positions. He knew how bad I wanted to play linebacker,
Right.
and looking at me at the time, you probably didn't think I could do it, or people didn't think he could do it. So, he believed in me. So Coach Zook was one of the biggest, and Coach D, man, I love Coach D.
Yep.
Coach Boyd, man, there's so many great. Coach Gene, I can't even tell you how many great coaches I had at Mount Hope, man.
Yep.
That fueled me, and even to this day, I can call Coach Zook right now, and he'll answer, and we'll talk football. And every time I see him, I hug him, and I'll tell you a funny story about Coach Zook one time. His nickname with the players was, oh man, he's going to kill me. But his nickname was Moon Pie. And the reason why was because he ate moon pies every day for lunch. And so me and David Humphrey one time, we took on and slid some moon pies in his office during 2 days lunch. He comes coming out there busting out, Parker, you go hit the stadium. And I was like, man, it wasn't even me, Coach. It was me, but me and David had to run some stadiums for it, but it was funny.
I would say. Yeah, he always had a good sense of humor, but he always acted so tough and hardcore all the time. But half the time he just is full around on something. I remember I was athletic director over a couple of years, and I finally got the point. I said, Coach Zook, listen, I said, you're either going to have to get your own officials for football games or, you're not have any. I said, because number one, I call these officials, you either don't like them or they don't like you. And I said, I can't find anybody to call your games. He said, I ain't none of them any good. And I'm like, I know how you feel, but we gotta get some officials for these football games. I just turned that over to him because he was the same way with them. And a lot of them would ask me, the guys that called basketball too, I'd have them and they'd be like, now is he really like gruff and mean like that all the time? And I'm like, dude, that's a show. He's not. Yeah. He's the nicest guy in the world.
One of the best. Yeah, absolutely one of the best.
Yep, great guy. So anyway, you left Mount Hope, then you end up at Marshall. Tell us how that all transpired.
So, Kevin Biggs had already, accepted an offer from Marshall, and Kevin was a good friend of mine, coming out of high school, obviously, and I was getting some traction from other schools. I went down to Wake Forest, and I visited Camford's down there, and it was just, I'm a small country man. I live. Most of people around there know I lived on an old mining town, and you didn't have running water until I was in 11th grade. So I was very appreciative whenever I went to Marshall to have running water.
Yeah.
But I visited other campuses, and it was really down between Marshall and West Virginia, and WVU was calling me. This was before Twitter. This was before Facebook. This was before cell phones and stuff. They had to call your house, and WVU was calling me. Steve Dunlap, he was the defensive coordinator at the time. He was calling me every week. And then, I had Tony Peterson from Marshall calling me every week. And that became Tony Peterson calling me, Coach Kelly calling me, Coach Pruitt calling me. Then Coach Pruitt coming to my house, and then Coach Kelly coming to my house, and Coach Peterson coming to my house. And, all in the meantime, Coach Dunlap was still just calling. And he kept saying, we're waiting on Coach Nealon. We're waiting on Coach Nealon. Pruitt, the good salesman that he is, he come up to me and said, look, man, you're my guy. I want you. You'll be playing. I promise you, you come to Marshall, you're going to play in the WVU game. And so the next day, I got a call from Coach Dunlap, and I said, hey, Marshall offered me, and he said, well, give me one more week and let me talk to Nealon. And, the following week comes about, and I talked to Pruitt, and Pruitt says, look, they're waiting for their top guy to tell them no,
Right.
and then they're coming to you.
Right.
You're my top guy.
Right.
I was like, well, okay, there you go, Coach. I'm coming to Marshall. And, Dunlap called me the next day, and I said, Coach, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Marshall. I feel like they want me more, and so that's how that came about.
Right. Awesome.
And so, it was nice to know Jeremy Crist, who was a player. He was a year older than me. He was down there already, so me and Kevin was down there together, and it was a good time down there.
Good deal.
That's kind of how I went to Marshall.
Awesome. Well, and it turned out pretty well for you. I know you a couple
Absolutely.
things, and you played on that. Of course, you had an undefeated team. I think that was '99, and you my print's kind of small, so I can't read everything real clear. But I'm looking at some notes here. You were all conference in 2000, I believe, and maybe second team in '99. We were talking about this too before. Some of the academic honors. College Sports Information Directors of America, they have an academic all-district team, and you were on the second team in '99, first team in the year 2000. So that's impressive in itself. The all-academic team, again here, I'm reading about, and then I was looking at some individual stats, and I did some digging here too, and to pull all this stuff out. For the season, the most tackles for a loss, you are tied for sixth in school history. Career most tackles for a loss for a career, number 13 and I'm just amazed he's 39 tackles for a loss, and I just think that stuff's neat to look back on, and like I said, I remember watching you play, and it doesn't surprise me. None of these things surprise me, but some pretty impressive stuff there. But the academic things, I think, are the most the things that stand out the most, and we talked about that just a little bit. Academically, you excelled, obviously, and I would have to think that and this is what I tell my oldest son and my youngest son, who's getting ready to start college. Once you get that degree, they can never take that away from you. And so I know how important that obviously was to you because of the academic standards that you had for yourself and the things that you accomplished there. Talk a little bit about that, the academic side of things, and how that was for you.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Well, I'll take it back to my parents. They definitely instilled in me to get a better education than what they had. And so, when I went to Marshall, I had this plan, and I didn't know about all these, all American academic team and all district and all that. And I just went out and hit the books. Right. I knew that if I wasn't going to play in the NFL, that I needed something to fall on. And so I went out and I just, participated. And I'm down here in Dallas right now because, the degree that I got. And, I was talking to a guy earlier today, and we was talking about, it's great to be a college athlete. Everybody thinks they're going to the NFL or the NBA or whatever, but to get that paper is so important. And that paper can mean a lot. Take it from a guy, I tell this story all the time. Growing up, my mom and dad wasn't well off. We didn't have running water. My sister's going to kill me on this, but we didn't have running water till I was a junior. We had to use the restroom in an outhouse. If younger kids don't know what that is, go Google it. Right. And we had to take baths by going and dipping a 5-gallon bucket into a well and pulling it out and heating it up on the stove. Mm-hmm. So I knew that in order to get out of that situation, I had to go to college. And I was blessed enough to get that scholarship from Marshall, so I was going to make the best of it. Yeah. And I was all conference my junior year. And I appreciate you giving those stats out because, I worked really hard, and I only had 2 years of defensive tackle under my belt. Right. And I wish I would have had 4, but if I have one regret in football in general, it was that. It was I started the 2 games at middle linebacker as a true freshman and all special teams, and then Coach Pruitt came to me and said, hey, I want to move you down to DN. And so I did the DN thing, and then my junior year, they were like, hey, we want you to play D tackle. So I kept having to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Right. And So, I was second team all conference my first year ever playing D tackle.
Yeah.
And my second year, I was first team all conference. So I wish now I would have been able to come down a little sooner. But, you mentioned tackles for losses. I didn't know any of all this. I'm a country boy from West Virginia. I didn't know about all these numbers, statistics, or anything like that. And, one of our PR guys came to me my senior year and said, Jimmy, you're fifth in the nation for TFLs.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? And so that was a huge deal for me. I teach, I coach now. I coach, my son's going up through Little League. And so I've been teaching or coaching football for almost 10 years now. And that's the number one thing I say to D tackles and D ends and stuff. I'm like, hey, a TFL is just as important as a touchdown.
Yep, that's
it's
right.
just as important.
That's right.
So,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Going back to the academic part, man, I took pride in that. To be actually, I don't know if you knew this, but I was an academic All-American. So
yes, I did know that.
I think me and Chad was on that team that year.
Yep.
So
Yep, I did, and I was telling that story today as well. I said, yes, he was an academic All-American, and because I was he an All-American, we were talking back and forth, and I said, yes, he was an academic All-American, and I said, that's to me, that's the greatest accomplishment right there. and you're looking at your stuff here, that some other good accomplishment, but that's a great one right there, no doubt about it.
Well, it takes back to the conversation me and you had before we came on air, and the conversation I had with a guy that played at Miami, Ohio, is the percentages that get into a professional sport is so minimal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking 1% at the most.
Right.
And so you put 50 people in a room, you might get one.
Right.
You might
maybe
get one.
Yep, maybe. Yep.
And so you really, man, you kids, if there's any kids out there listening, truly take those academics so important, man, and strive for that. Absolutely.
Yep. I had that as my last question for you. What would you tell a young person who wants to be a football player? And you just said it right there. Make sure your academics come first. And that's what I always told my kids, my two kids. Take care of your business. You take care of your business first, and worry about your sports later. You mentioned Chad there just a minute ago, and if anybody knows anything about sports, course knows you're talking about Chad Pennington. And a funny story. My wife and I used to have this business, and it was a dry foods business. We did like soups and coffees and teas and things like that, and really good stuff. And it got to growing pretty fast. And we got a call from Chad's wife one time, and she wanted to order Christmas presents, and she wanted us to send a sample gift basket of our stuff. So we did that. She also had Cracker Barrel and a couple other people send them gift baskets too. She wanted to see which one she liked the best, and of course, luckily for us, the Cracker Barrel one I think got broken up on the way in shipment. So she started ordering from us, and she'd order Christmas presents every year from us. And
nice.
I used to get tickled because she would order like 45 gift baskets, and they would be, she'd say, I want this many at this much, and then I want 5 of them at this much, and then there'd be 2 or 3 for a whole lot, and that was for the head coach and that kind of thing, and I always remember going to the post office, and those people would be like, Vinny Testaverde? you know Herm Edwards? And I'm like, no. Just sending some packages to him. But anyway, every time I would see him on a game, and I don't know why I'm even telling the story, but every time I'd see him, I'd think about, man, he's had our soup before. I wonder if he really likes it, because she always talked about how good it was. I just said, I wonder if she ever fed it to him. So,
well, you talk about that. Chad's one heck of a person, man.
Oh, they were super nice people, yeah.
Super great people. And I was fortunate enough to play with a lot of good players.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about this the other day. Our 99 squad, that defensive unit that we had, we were ranked first in rushing defense, and I think we're top 5 in passing defense, but total defense too. I think we were pretty high in that as well.
Right.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about everybody on that defense could have played in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's me included. NFL's a political. It's so much politics go in the NFL. It's a business, and people don't understand that side of it.
Right.
But everybody on that team, that 99 squad on our defensive unit, could have played in the NFL. And it was a phenomenal defense. And half of them did play in the NFL.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, good defense, yes. I remember.
It was a great defense. And not only that, the offensive side had some really good players, too. I can't tell you how many went and played in the NFL off that team as well.
Right. Yeah, and I always thought Chad Pennington, I mean, I always thought he was just an awesome quarterback, and I thought even in the NFL he did tremendous, and just didn't always have the best players around him, and if he'd have been in the right spot, he'd have been all pro because he was that good. He was so cerebral and just he's just good. And you was talking about what a nice guy he was, and I think back on that. My oldest son now, he's 28, going on 29. He was just a small child then, 7 or 8 back then. And well, you might even remember him coming over to the school to basketball practice stuff, Sydney. But he has a whole suitcase full of Jets hats autographed by Chad Pennington and jerseys and bowling pins and everything else that Chad would always send him stuff, and I just thought, man, he don't have to do that, but he always does. And he'd do that just about every year. And just, I just thought it was awful nice of him not to even really know us, but, to think enough to do stuff like that. But yeah, good fellow.
Well, it takes you back to your character, right? My daughter, she plays, she plays for Spring Valley. She's a basketball player there.
Yep.
I always tell her, you always want to be humble. You always want to work hard, but you always want to know where you came from.
Right. Don't forget that. Yep.
Don't ever forget that.
Yep.
She's a pretty good player for the state. I'm going to brag on her a little bit.
Yeah.
Freshman, she averaged 11.5 in 4A and got all-state honorable mention. So as a freshman, I always tell her, look, these are all great accolades.
Mm-hmm. Get
your education. You're a student first.
Yep.
Your athlete second.
Yep.
And then always be humble.
Absolutely. Good advice. And you, I was going to ask you, about your life now. You mentioned the fact that that you coach, and you don't have to delve into your professional life, but I know you coach, and I've seen some pictures and things on there. Talk about your coaching. What are you coaching, and what grade your son in, and how good a football player is he?
Well, my son's he's a 5th grader. His name's Sladen Colpatrick Parker.
Okay.
We call him Shooter. He's a clown.
I can't imagine why.
You remember me in high school.
Absolutely.
He basically acts the same way.
Okay. Well, explain.
But he's they're expecting him to be my size or a little bit bigger.
Wow. Awesome.
So he's got potential, and that's what I tell him all the time. He's a 5th grader, but I'm still talking to him about, hey man, you got potential to do this and do that. And,
right.
Right now his big sport right now is baseball, and he loves pitching. But defensively, I coach his football team, and defensively I got him on a D line, and I think though that I told him, listen, you really want to do this thing, we'll get you on the offensive line, because I think that's where I might have made a mistake.
Right.
I probably should have moved over to the offensive line side, because with the foot speed I had and the speed, it was it's probably better to go over there. But he does a good job. He plays all 3 sports. He plays football, basketball, and baseball, and so I coach football and basketball.
Awesome.
And then and my daughter, she plays high school volleyball, and then she plays, obviously I talked about her playing basketball, which I've coached her since she was 5 in basketball, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to be on that staff at Spring Valley to help coach. And
awesome.
So that's what I'm doing these days, and I actually got finagled to coach volleyball, which I knew nothing about. But I'm quickly learning.
Oh yeah.
And I joke with I play with a guy named Orlando Washington. He's based out of Man, West Virginia. Great football player, and he coaches volleyball at Man High School. I was like, how in the world did you get in volleyball? And sure enough, I got in it. I don't even know how I did, but but they're good kids. I hope they stay humble. I hope they keep working. They got potential to be, if they want to go to college, they got the potential. But it takes a lot of hard work. I tell both of them, you got to love what you're doing, because when you do go to college, especially Division I, it is a full-time job. You got 5 o'clock workouts. You got to go to class. You got to go to study hall. You got practice. You got film. You got weights. You got training. It's a full-time job. Make sure you love that sport.
Yep. I know my son. He graduates this year. He's a basketball player. Played at Oak Hill, and he's about 6'2", 6'3", and he's a pretty good player. And I mean, he's not Division I, and he's going to have to do some work just to play in the conference. And we went up. He had a visit last week at D&E, and he was looking at some of the schedules for their workouts and stuff, and 5 a.m. workouts and that kind of thing. And he was like, they really do that? I said, you better get ready.
Absolutely.
If you want to play, you're going to have to do some work. You better get ready. So
I'll never forget you trying to. So you're in West Virginia in February. You got spring practice at 5:30.
Yeah.
You got to go out there and hit people at 5:30 in the morning. It's freezing cold. It is a full-time job.
It's not
but
easy.
You know what? Hey, I was blessed enough to get a scholarship, and that's where I met my wife down in Marshall. So it was a blessing for sure.
Yeah, yep, that's awesome. And I talked a lot about my time at Mount Hope. I was telling my brother, he's a WVU grad, and we were talking about in Marshall and WVU and all that. And I said, when I was at Mount Hope, I said, everybody graduated from Marshall. I said, I was one of the few there that didn't. I said, the principal did, and I said, didn't the kids go there to school and play ball? And I said, so I was outgunned over there. I caught a lot of grief over there from all the Marshall fans. And there's still lots of Marshall fans over there.
There is. And, at that time, we had me, Kevin Biggs, and then Mike Williams from Beckley. We all played, and then Greg Legursky came down to Marshall, and there was a player from Fayetteville come down, Josh Evans.
Yep. Sure
so in that area, Marshall was kind of big, and it's so funny in Huntington right now. There's more WVU stuff than I ever seen in Huntington, and I remember telling my son even wears it. I remember telling him and saying, "Look, back when I played, you didn't see this stuff in Huntington."
That's right.
So, but there's a lot of Spring Valley kids that went up there.
Right.
Grayson Malashevich, Doug Nestor, Wyatt Milam, Bryce Biggs. There's all kinds of great players from Spring Valley that went up there. Man, I just love that they're recruiting in-state kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I feel like some of our West Virginia kids get overlooked by other cities and states. And, we got talent in West Virginia, boys and girls.
Oh, yeah.
And they just get overlooked because they're not from Virginia or they're not from Ohio.
Or a big city somewhere,
Or a big city somewhere.
Yep, you're exactly right. So, it is good to see that these in-state kids are getting a little more attention now. And, again, you do see a lot more of them playing now, for WVU and Marshall, that are from in-state. So that's a good thing. I agree with you. All right, listen, we're getting short on time. You probably got to get back in there and get the conference again. I'm gonna get you fired, man. We'll be talking about this something else next time we talk to you. But we got one more thing that we do, and we do this with every guest that we've had, and we've had a lot of good guests. We had Ted Valentine on last week, who's an NCAA basketball official. We've had Archie Talley. We've had Joe Alexander from WVU. We've had Jonathan Hollyfield. We've had a ton of good guests, including yourself, and we don't let any of them get away without doing this. And what we do, we have a segment at the end here we call Shoot to Three. If you've watched the show, you know what it is. The Shoot to Three is we ask you 3 questions, and we give them to you in rapid fire succession. You got to answer them within 30 seconds. And I usually tell all my guests, of course, none of them know Gorby. So I tell all my guests that Gorby's about 6'5", weighs about 290. And if you don't answer the questions in time, he comes and works on your kneecaps. But you know Gorby.
I know Gorby, though.
Yeah, you know Gorby. So I can't use
I'm
that.
a hair bigger.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're bigger than he is. So I can't really say that to you. I'll just say this. We don't really count the seconds anyway. We just act like we do. So we're going to ask you 3 questions that have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about tonight. Probably nothing to do with anything you've ever talked about. And then we're going to have you to answer those questions just out of fun and see how interesting your answers are. The first question, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
If they made a movie about Jimmy Parker, who would play the lead role as you?
Man, that is a good question. I got to say The Rock, right?
There you go. Good one.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a superstar these days. I mean, it was similar story. He was a defensive lineman at Miami.
That's right. Yeah.
Why not? Let's play. Let The Rock do it.
Good-looking guy, big, strong, muscular like yourself. Yeah,
absolutely.
There you go. All right. Question number 2. If you could make a phone call seeking advice from someone other than a family member from, say, 50 years or so back, who would you call and what advice would you ask?
Ooh. Man, that's a good one. That is a really good one. I'll keep it in sports.
Okay.
And I'll keep it with football, and I'll keep it with my person I looked up to, and that'd be Mike Singletary.
Awesome.
I know he's still alive, but
awesome.
I would like to talk to Mike Singletary back in the 80s.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would have been fun, wouldn't it? I bet you that would have been an intense conversation, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Question number 3. You get to pick the way that you die other than old age. How you going to go out?
Ooh, man, one thing you didn't ask me was what I did. Well, I think you might have, and I didn't touch base on it, but I'm in the operating rooms every day. I sell medical devices.
Right.
So I see a lot of disease states, and was a pharmaceutical rep for a few years. And I tell you, man, my mom passed away of cancer,
Yep.
so I definitely don't want to go that way.
Right.
My dad died of cancer, so I don't want to go that way. So
Right.
cancer's out. I would say probably, make it quick. Maybe a car wreck.
However.
Make it quick.
Well, I'll tell you what my answer is, and everybody's like, "Oh man, I wish I'd thought of that." My answer is, I hope I hear something funny, say something funny, or see something funny, and I start laughing, and I laugh so hard that my heart just stops.
You know what? That is a really good one.
Yeah, of course, I got the questions so I can think about them for a long time, so it's a lot easier for me. So, listen, man, I appreciate
I like that.
you.
I'm stealing it.
There you go. Yeah, if you ever get to ask that again, you'll know what the answer next time, which you probably will never get that question asked to you again. But anyway, you can bring it up. Maybe that's what you do. You bring it up, and then you spring that answer on them. That'd be good.
I like it.
All right, Jimmy, listen, man, I appreciate you doing this so much. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. Haven't seen you for ages. I run into you in Huntington one time, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, probably the last time I saw you. And I appreciate you taking some time. I know you're busy down there. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully we can do this again.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Gorby. I didn't get to talk to him. Me and Gorby see each other every year. We play in the Mount Hope Lions Club tournament, and so I hate I didn't get to talk to him, but you know what? I really appreciate you having me on. I tell you, like I told you before, it's an honor for me. So thank you, sir.
I think the pleasure and the honor is all ours, and we do appreciate you again taking the time. And congratulations on all your success and everything you got looking forward to with your kids. I know it's going to be fun for you, and we'll keep an eye on that too.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, Jimmy, have a good one, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye.
All right, Jimmy Parker, great guy and heck of a football player. And for those folks that live around in this area, you remember watching him at Mount Hope. He was something else, and something else down at Marshall as well. So we appreciate Jimmy taking the time to talk to us. And as always, I get the wind blowing, and before you know it, we done spent 25 minutes talking to people that we're supposed to be talking 15 minutes to, and it's almost 9 o'clock, and I'm going to cause Darren to get a divorce if I don't quit doing this. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and sign off now. We'll try to get a hold of Marshall Wood next week, talk to him about his victory in the cornhole tournament. Hopefully Gorby will be back with us next week, and not forget there is a show. We appreciate Dr. Crist. We appreciate Oogie Spivens. We appreciate everyone who tuned in and listened to us tonight. And of course, Muggy McLeod giving us the forecast and the traffic updates. We appreciate that as well. Mostly, we appreciate Jimmy Parker for coming on with us and spending some time with us. Very interesting and fun to talk to. Good to hear from these guys that are from back our way. Always fun to talk to the people that we know and that are local. That's good stuff. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. We appreciate you listening. We'll be letting you know about our baseball broadcast, softball broadcast coming up next week. We'll advertise that on Facebook and Twitter and wherever else we can think of to let you know that, and we hope you'll join us for those as well. We appreciate you joining us again here on Courtside with Coach Crist. I'm Greg Crist. Good night, everybody.